Let's take a look at Georgia's schedule next year, Caleb. And it looks like Tennessee is probably the most daunting challenge they have on their schedule. Would that be accurate?
I would go as far to say they may be the only challenge on Georgia's schedule. I mean, unless you want to count Ole Miss the week before, but that's at Sanford Stadium. I know Lane Kiffin's a great coach, but I mean, do you really think Ole Miss, even with Lane Kiffin and the program he's got, is good enough to beat Georgia at Georgia? I don't think they're good enough to compete. So yeah, I think Tennessee's the only challenge on their schedule. This is such a bad schedule. I'm going to be honest. Even as an SEC team, I think Georgia might have to win the SEC championship next year to get to the playoff. I don't think they have a case if they lose because they're not going to have a quality win on the resume otherwise.
So their top games are Ole Miss, Georgia, and then kind of break down the schedule for me if you can.
Yeah, Ole Miss and Tennessee, and those are back to back. They open at UT Martin, then they have Ball State, then they have South Carolina at home. I get how South Carolina ended this season, but I think you think that was a fluke, Dave, and I think that you may be right on that. Then they have UAB at home. So their first 4 games are at home, all 3 against Group of 5 teams, the other against South Carolina. Then their first road game is at Auburn. That's going to be a rebuilding team, and with a first-year head coach. Then they have Kentucky at home, and then they visit Vanderbilt. That's all before their bye. So we can just go ahead and say they're going to be 7-0 before their bye. There's not even a debate, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I think they're 7-0 heading into the bye, and then where does it get interesting?
And then it gets interesting with Florida and Jacksonville. Under Kirby Smart, they've righted the ship. If this were Mark Richt, I mean, you know, historically, it seemed like even when Florida was at their worst and Georgia was at their best, Florida could get the best of them. I think Ron Zook took 2 of 3 against Florida. Cost Mark Richt a national title in 2002 by beating Georgia. But that those days are long gone. So I think Georgia's going to beat Florida. I missed the boat on Billy Napier. I thought Billy Napier, I didn't think he was great at scheming, but I thought he was a great program runner, I guess you could say, like CEO.
He's great at details. That's the one word we kept hearing during SEC Media Days. He's a detail guy. He's a detail guy. What does that mean? That he remembers to brush his teeth every morning? I've not been a Billy Napier guy from the get. I'm just going to be honest with you. But, I was definitely in the minority with Billy Napier at Florida at SEC Media Days. Everybody from an analyst perspective, like a national that covers the entire conference, down to individual beat writers, said he's going to get it done. I was like, no, I don't know that he's going to get it done. I think Brian Kelly was a much better hire at LSU. He's got the most wins of all time at Notre Dame. And so I don't think Florida's headed for anything special, Tennessee fans. But Caleb, continue. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. I actually would have added to that. I'm going to go bold here. I mean, because I know we disagree, but I'm not trying to pretend I thought he was a good coach. Billy Napier, kind of the whole detailed process thing reminds me so much of Derek Dooley in a negative way, you know, so process oriented. And so, yeah, so there's Florida, Missouri at home. That's a win. So we're already talking. I've gotten them to 9-0 already. And I don't know how they fall out of bed and win all 9 of these games. Then you've got Ole Miss at home November the 11th. That's going to be that's their toughest game to that point. Their 10th game is Ole Miss at home. The week after that, they visit Tennessee, and then they visit Georgia Tech. That's a bad schedule. Georgia Tech's going to have a first-year head coach too. And so, I mean, that's a really, really, really bad schedule. So unless Florida surprises us and turns it around and becomes good, unless Spencer Rattler is, I'm hearing rumblings, and Dave, your head might explode because you're not a fan of Shane Beamer, but I'm hearing rumblings that Spencer Rattler is going to be next year's Hendon Hooker. And unless that happens, or unless Florida really takes another step under Napier, where's Georgia's competition before Ole Miss and Tennessee? And Ole Miss is at home. And again, I don't think Ole Miss, I mean, talent-wise, I would put a lot more money on Tennessee competing than Ole Miss.